Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Our next guest grew up in a family-owned business. From a very young age, Barry Goodman learned about the strategies for success during difficult times. Then he opened his own CPA firm for more than 20 years while watching other businesses struggle. Today, Barry joins us as the managing director of Birkdale Transition Partners, helping businesses big and small navigate and thrive during these challenging times. Hi, Barry.
Good morning, Molly.
Good morning to you. I understand, and it's probably not surprising, that your services, your knowledge and experience is more in demand than ever before.
Well, it is. We're very busy these days.
I'm not surprised. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you got started, and what brought you to today.
Well, you touched on it a little bit in the introduction. I grew up in a family-owned business, and we saw things go up and down during the entire history of the business, and I chose not to go into it. And I spent 40 years in public accounting and saw business owners make good decisions and bad decisions. And I grew an affinity for family-held businesses in particular. But people make good decisions and bad decisions about their business, and they have lived through the Great Recession, 9/11, and now we're facing a time where we have something that we have not experienced, at least in my lifetime, is a pandemic where it's really affecting almost every business around.
I bet people want to hear your advice all the time, but I'm wondering, what is your best advice for all of those businesses right now who are trying to navigate this pandemic?
Well, every business is impacted, either positive or negative. Some businesses are thriving tremendously through this period of time, but there's more businesses, I believe, that are really hurting and need to look at their business model, how they're doing business, and is that going to carry them going forward? A key element is to look at the resources that you have. And you may have resources that you don't even know exist. And the resources really is in a sense, is your business model. Is your business model going to survive through this? And what changes do you need to make? And what do you need to get rid of? And what you need to accelerate in order to generate the cash flow to survive through this? We talk about value, and value really at this point in time with most business owners isn't a concern. It's really generating the cash flow and looking at your business, saying, what do you need to accelerate because you have lack of resources, and what should you no longer do? What did you do before that because of those lack of resources you can no longer do?
So I'm curious, because one of the things that you talk about is creativity as it relates to billing and how people work out things like payment terms with clients.
Well, that's very important. A key element of that is talking to your customers, because your customers are going through the same issues, the same problems that you are. And by talking to your customers, you can accomplish a number of things. One is getting the voice of the customer. This is something that you should do in good times and in bad, is to ask your customers, how are you doing? What do you do well? What do you don't do well? And then to understand how your customers are doing and how they can afford to pay for the merchandise or the services that they are buying from you. And then to look at your own needs and what your accounts payable are and how you need to pay your bills and your employees and everything else, and sort of merge it together to develop a payment arrangement that makes sense for your customer and that makes sense for you. And to give discounts for even somebody paying in 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, so that you can coordinate the money that is, or the cash that is being generated from your customers with what you need to pay.
You know, one of the things, Barry, I think is that a lot of businesses simply just don't see a light at the end of this pandemic tunnel. And I wonder what advice you have for them when they're just feeling very down about that, and as it relates to planning for the future.
Well, I recommend planning for the future, whether it's a good time or bad time. It's extremely important to do scenario planning. But this will enable you to look at all your expenses, when they need to be paid, what you believe your income is going to be, what you need to get rid of, what you need to keep, and develop a plan so that you can develop the cash flow that you need to carry you forward.
One of the things you say is that the single most important thing for business owners at this time is to remain positive. I just mentioned that a lot of them don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. What suggestions do you have that are based in reality that the business owners can stay positive right now?
Well, to know that this at some point in time will hopefully end, but being resilient is in the DNA of business owners and entrepreneurs. The business owners that have been around for a while have survived through 9/11, a recession, other downturns in the economy, but we have not experienced something like COVID. But we have found that remaining positive leads the owners to even become more resilient and have a better business going forward. So it's really important that we remain positive throughout this experience.
So many good tips, from relationships and knowing those are important, to being creative and planning, to understanding market opportunities and your resources, to also staying positive. I'd love to know where people can go for more information. If they'd like to hear more from you or want more business tips, I think now so many people are struggling.
Well, they can go to our website, restorevaluetoday.com, which provides, we have a number of different articles and podcasts that will give them some ideas and some tips on what to do to get through this thing in a positive fashion.
It's wonderful. I have to say before we go that you have probably the best virtual setup I have ever seen. I don't know if you did it yourself or you get input, but your background is absolutely lovely. But the lighting and the framing is gorgeous. So thank you so much, Barry, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to meet you and hear from an expert like you. RestoreValueToday.com is the website where you can find out more about Barry and Birkdale Transition Partners too.